So now that Egghead has officially finished up, I want to go and give my final thoughts on this arc as a whole. The start and the middle of this arc has been fantastic. It has blew away all the expectations. It's just in the third act and the ending, I feel that it came off a little bit short. If it went the way that I'm going to talk about with this alternate ending, I feel it would have been so much better. And I'd love to go and hear your thoughts in the comment section about if you had any sort of expectations going into this arc, or if the ending of the arc was a bit different than what you had anticipated. I'd love to go and hear what your thoughts are in the comments down below. And also, I've just come back after a 6-month hiatus. This is actually my first One Piece video in 6 months. So I'd really appreciate the feedback in the comments, as well as a like on this video to help me out, and subscribe if you haven't for more future One Piece related videos. First, I wanted to just talk about the good parts of Egghead. And look, I don't need to go and list every single thing that happened. We all know what happened. It honestly, it exceeded everything we could have imagined when it came to an arc. In the podcast that I've done on the Hypestream podcast over the last year when this was going on, I think the term that I'd like to go and say is, you know, it's like the sleeper arc of the sleeper arc of the decade. Like, nobody would have anticipated the amount of like moments we would have got during this arc. There were so many fantastic moments, whether it's, you know, the death of Eustace Kid is up there as my favorite. You have the interaction with Blackbeard and Law. You have, you know, Garp and, you know, Aokiji, and you have all these other moments. You know, look, the five Gorosei. The 5 Gorosei having their massive reveal in that panel in front of Luffy has got to be hands down one of the greatest panels in the entire series. Like, so many absolutely, like, just drop dead moments like you wouldn't believe to expect in an arc like this. Something that we thought was going to be a bit of a side detour before we went off into Elbaf. So, as a whole, in terms of moments and you know, just surprises, this arc has been absolutely incredible. And just the amount of information we got from the Gorosei, from Vegapunk, you know, we finally got some more details with Vegapunk, as well as even at the conclusion, we finally got our first glimpse of Joy Boy. Like, we have somewhat of a picture of Joy Boy now. That's a huge deal. So it's been honestly such an incredibly fun time. So I'm not going to beat around the bush here and just get straight into what I feel fell short in the Egghead arc. For me, it's about the stakes. And what I mean about the stakes is at the very start of this arc, we were introduced to Eustace Kid and Shanks, right? Absolutely demolished. Absolutely annihilated this dude. Best chapter I've ever read. It was absolutely fantastic. And then we also have Blackbeard and Law. Law decimated, right? Not to the extent of Captain Kidd, right? Let me make that perfectly clear. But nonetheless, decimated, defeated, right? These are two men who have the same bounty as Luffy. These men have such a high notoriety in the One Piece world, right? Coming out of Wano, this is the, you know, these are the newcomers. Like, these are the guys that are the guys to beat. Like, these are the people to watch out for, right? Look, we have the Emperors, you know, we have the Gorosei, but these people coming out of Wano, they're the top dogs, right? Other than those guys. So, when you have Kid being defeated, and you have Law being defeated, there's an interesting situation that was presented. It's the fact that Blackbeard and Shanks were both, you know, members of the Yonko. They were both one of the Yonko. Now, you have Luffy, who has the same bounty coming out of Wano as Law and Kid. But the difference is, of course, he's a Yonko as well. So, ultimately, we are presented with this situation that at the end of this arc, we would most likely have the defeat of Luffy. Now, not maybe necessarily to the extent of Law and Kid, right? Because Luffy is indeed a member of, you know, he's an emperor himself. But, you know, that was the trajectory of where the story was going. And because now we're in the final saga and the stakes have now elevated themselves to such an incredible peak, especially having witnessed Law and Kid be absolutely decimated, you would expect the same thing for Luffy. And in saying that, having the introduction, the full-on reveal of the 5 elders in all of their glory, full form, in front of Luffy, that was the perfect situation to have Luffy be overwhelmed, be defeated, and just have to escape by the skin of his teeth off to Elbaf to really establish that we're getting into the final stage of the story. The top dogs are coming out. The Gorosei, who have been in the shadows for so many years since the start of the series, they've finally appeared. The situation has escalated to the point where they have to reveal themselves and have to take matters into their own hands. And, you know, they got shit done. They went and snuffed this guy out, right? It should be enough that one of the Gorosei against Luffy would be a tough, formidable foe. So when you have all 5, surely that should be enough of an excuse, enough of a situation to overwhelm one of the emperors. Surely. But when it came to the events of Egghead, we obviously saw that you can say that he escaped from the skin of his teeth based on the assists from, you know, the giant pirates as well as the Iron Giant, and with Joy Boy's haki, which was revealed to be, you know, a factor in this escape. But I don't feel that enough damage was taken to any one of the crew, especially Luffy, who should have been the #1 prime target. And now we left Egghead, and it's, you know, the 5 Gorosei just got kind of snuffed away. They just they just got blown back by Joy Boy's haki, and we just happily escaped. Like, sure, you can say that Vegapunk, you know, he took one for the team, but, well, duh, he's like a scientist. He's not like one of the emperors, right? How could you ever expect Vegapunk to go and 1v1 Saturn, even though that would be pretty incredible to see if he just all of a sudden hulked up and started tussling. But the fact of the matter is, you know, he got snuffed out, as he should have, because it's one of the Gorosei versus a guy with like what a head, right? He's got a massive target on his head, literally. Yeah, so it just kind of fell flat in terms of my expectation for the stakes and the risk, because if Luffy had been like really severely injured, if he had been defeated, it would have really elevated the Gorosei's you know, perspective and how much of a formidable force they can be. So that, in my eyes, is quite a bit disappointing. Even though the moments themselves were absolutely fantastic, and having each of the Gorosei interact with the other Straw Hats and other people and kind of do their own thing was really cool. It's just the overall perception of the Gorosei, I felt, has been affected based on how we just managed to escape pretty much, you know, like hands-free, which is a bit disappointing. Another thing that hurt the end of this arc had to go and be the pacing. So during the start and the middle of this arc, Oda did a fantastic job of, you know, just slowly building the stakes and slowly putting the pieces forward to have banger after banger when it comes to these chapters, right? Like, we arrived in Egghead, we zip away, we look at everything we garp, we look at everything with Kobe and with Sabo, and we slowly put the pieces in place and we tie those little stories up, so that way the story in Egghead has progressed enough to the point where we could have chapter after chapter, bang, 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 of just knockout chapters and just progress this thing at a rapid, fantastic pace and really build to this Egghead incident. But I feel that towards the third act of this arc, it really did. It just kind of stunted in terms of its pacing. It just really kind of dragged, which is very unfortunate in my eyes. So yeah, I just feel the pacing just did not catch up with the middle and start of this arc. especially because of my expectation of what could have happened, and especially with how everything transpired. I do definitely think it did affect the pacing of the arc itself. So my alternate ending for the arc would have been to have Luffy be really severely injured. Like, you can have the crew make it out because Luffy ultimately was there up against the 5, right? Like, at least give him something where he is defeated, he's smacked around, where he is greatly affected, and that way, you know, the giant pirates and the Iron Giant can go and take Luffy and escort him to safety in the ship, and that way, when we do progress to Elbaf, there's going to be a greater sense of, oh my god, that was the Gorosei, who were those guys? There's such a crazy force to be reckoned with. Let's go and help Luffy, let's go and just, you know, maybe not for like a dramatic period of time, maybe he can bounce back pretty quickly, but just at least give us a sense of danger. Like, let him be smacked around and hurt and defeated and show that they are indeed a force to be reckoned with, and that when these guys show up again, we better be scared. Because now what we know what we can do is just pull out the Joy Boy playbook and just grab a bunch of Joy Boy's toys, and just kind of smack them away. Like, let's find more Joy Boy toys, some more Joy Boy weapons, some more Joy Boy Haki infused items, just to kind of smack these guys away, because they just got defeated so quickly from it. So that's quite a bit disappointing. I'd like to go and hear what your thoughts are in the comment section regarding Egghead as a whole, because again, I want to reiterate that this arc has been absolutely fantastic. It's been such a fun time. It didn't detract from my whole viewpoint of the arc. I do think this is still one of the better arcs of the series, and just the amount of stuff that we got in it, it was just incredible. But it really did just disappoint me with how the ending concluded, and how it could have been. So I'd love to go and hear your thoughts in the comment section. Did Egghead end up living up to your expectations? Did it end in the way that you expected? And also, what are your expectations moving on from Egghead? Because I'll have to go and do a separate video talking about Elbaf, because that's a whole nother can of worms. There's so much that we can dive into with Elbaf, but for now, I just want to give my thoughts on Egghead as a whole, especially how it could have been with the ending. Once again, guys, feel free to go and like this video and subscribe if you haven't for future One Piece related videos. I hope you have an amazing day. Take care, and I'll see you all on the next one.